You next!
Those were up, and they did.
More smarts, and my...
He told me enough!
No, I.
Here's Chuck!
Hey everyone, it's Don J. Corleone here, and I am here with a brand new movie review. And this movie review is going to be for a horror film. It was a horror film that was made in 2011, but wasn't released till 2013. And it's directed by a not so great director. And it was but this was known as one of his best works. And it was a home invasion slasher film. And that's going to be for none other than either 2011 or 2013-ish, whatever year you prefer it came out. You're Next, directed by Adam Wingard. So what's the plot of this movie? Well, in an attempt to mend their broken family ties, Aubrey and Paul Davison decide to celebrate their wedding anniversary by inviting family members to their weekend estate. The celebration, though, gets off to a rocky start when mysterious assailants wearing animal masks suddenly attack the house. Yeah, so how was the film made? Well, originally, Simon Barrett wrote the film after his friend Adam Wingard told him that he wanted to do a home invasion movie, noting that they were the only films that still truly frightened him. From there, Simon Barrett wrote a script inspired by Agatha Christie mysteries, as well as a combination of screwball comedies and chamber mysteries. Simon Barrett would later note that Bay of Blood was probably in the back of his mind when writing the film, although he only realized this after the fact. Adam Wingard even credited the film's humor to Barrett's sense of humor and cynicism, and some of the dinner conversations were improvised and based on real-life experiences the filmmakers had with family members. The film was then shot in 2011 at a mansion in Columbia, Missouri, and filming took place over 4 weeks, and shooting consisted mostly of night shoots filmed from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. So, while the film had its world premiere at the 2011 was shot and had its premiere at the 2011 Toronto International Film Festival Midnight Madness program, the film would not be marketed or theatrically until 2013, and would not be theatrically released to the public in theaters on August 23rd, 2013 in the United States. At the box office, the film grossed a moderate $26 million worldwide on a $1 million budget. Well, to be fair, this was not very well known to people, and was independently released, and also released before the end of the summer, which are usually not good ideas. But, though, it has received positive reviews from critics and horror fans, and has gained a cult following. Now, as for my reaction, well, first of all, I want to summarize Adam Wingard as a filmmaker first. He's never been one of my favorite filmmakers. I mean, yeah, I know he did do Godzilla vs. Kong, which I loved. He directed that. I loved that movie. But come on, guys. Even before Godzilla vs. Kong, let's look at his other films he's done without this movie. He did a film called Horrible Way to Die, which I never saw. Can't say that, though. Then, of course, he did have involvement in the first two films of the anthology movie series VHS. With those, when it comes to the first film, his wraparound from the first film was awful. The wraparound Adam Wingard did, called T-56, that wraparound sucked. I'm sorry. For those who love the movie, it's fine, but there was only one part of the movie I liked, and it was definitely not Adam Wingard's involved part. Because, guys, face this. The wraparound of the first film had awful characters. Awful leads that were basically criminal muggers that pretty much smash cars, houses, other property, film themselves having sex with their girlfriends. One of them does, anyways. And try to horribly lie about it being filmed. even though she can clearly see the camera in the scene. And even literally in the movie, and wraparound in general, literally starts off. I'm not kidding, guys. The first scene you see in the whole first film, and a great way to kick off the franchise, is these same creeps go and sexually humiliate a girl in the parking lot by ripping off her shirt and showing her boobs on camera, going, "Show those boobies!" Yeah, or like, no, I think they say, "Show those titties on camera." Great way to start the movie. Great way to start your franchise. Perfect. I don't want to see creep rapists be the protagonists of an anthology wraparound. That if those are ever made characters in a horror movie, I can already tell I'm not going to enjoy it. Not only are they creeps, but they're also complete idiots, and it's because once they do get to the house they're assigned to go to steal the tape that kicks off the shorts, they of course see a dead old guy's body, and instead of leaving or even stealing one of the TVs and VCR player to replace their broken one and watch the tapes back at their place, they watch them in front of the dead guy, and they die one by one because the guy's obviously not dead. The leader's reaction to one of their decapitated corpses was even hilariously awful because once he sees one of their corpses, he's like, fuck! Like a stoner. The only segments of that first VHS movie I liked were Amateur Nights, by David Bruckner, the one with the "I like you, girl." Yeah, the one with the girl. I did like that segment. That was pretty terrifying, I will admit that. Shame it has to be in a bad movie though, and I temporarily liked 10/31/98 because it did have some moments, and at least that did try to be set during the time when VHS tapes were relevant. But, however, I did like it until the shitty jump scare downer ending ruined it for me, and I really wish they should have just went with the joke ending. But then, of course, he did have involvement with 2. I did love VHS 2, but not a segment. This segment he did was that stupid eyeball thing called Phase 1 Clinical Trials, which was one of my bad qualities of the film because that segment was just some Paranormal Activity boring styled segment filmed from an eyeball, which, filmed from an electronic eyeball is kind of creative, I'll give it that, but the problem is nothing scary even happened in it. It was just him walking around his house, seeing random ghosts, which is literally a Paranormal Activity style film. Even Adam Wingard even played the main role, and even he looked bored. James Rolfe was actually going to play the lead in that segment, but he backed out. And his friend Simon Barrett, who also wrote the first VHS film, directed the wraparound, and while not as bad as the first one's wraparound, it was still boring and eh. I'll take it over the wraparound for the first film any day though. Then after those 2 movies and this movie, Adam and Simon went on to direct that shitty 2016 Blair Witch reboot sequel, which was literally just this shitty rehash of the first film, and it thankfully killed the found footage genre. And then he also did that crappy Death Note remake that nobody liked. So yeah, only this movie and Godzilla vs. Kong were some of his only good stuff. He's just not my favorites. I'm sorry, guys. Not my favorite filmmaker. But back to this movie now. I thought this movie was actually pretty good. This movie had some good gore, good masks for the invaders, and a great badass female lead as well. Your next is unabashedly yet another nuclear family under rich yuppies being slaved by mass psycho killers at vacation home slasher, right down to the obligatory last girl element. But while the movie's schema is completely typical, its execution, like smart script, decent cast, all direction by Adam Wingard, is exemplary. It starts off much like most horror films. Some unknown characters get brutally murdered, leading into the beginning of the main film. Simple effects like the music in the opening scene made it really stand out against many horror openings, and I was excited to see more straight from the start. The film then continues where the opening scene left off, keeping the viewer in suspense until the motives of the masked men are revealed. At this point, the film seems to change gear, becoming much more violent. Before this part of the film, much of the murders were not showing their full gore, and in some cases mildly amusing. The major detail of Your Next gets right to provide actual motivation for both the villains as kill spree for the heroine's ability to survive the Avatar, other than being yet another innocent virgin with gumption. This alone is enough to place the film at the pinnacle of its subgenre, and moreover, director Adam Wingard and screenwriter Simon Barrett demonstrated talent for sidestepping annoying cliches. The assembled victims number 10 instead of the usual half dozen, while While not one idiot teen in the lot, the squealing, screaming, helpless characters are windowed with audience consideration dispatched so the more fit and bright can make the best of their situation. Meanwhile, refreshingly, the murderers are not portrayed as unstoppable killing machines up until the final 10 minutes. One even gets a short breath, and in a pretty funny moment, he needs to be given a timeout. The splinter of horror that encompasses home invasion, that most terrifying of subject matters, is that enough filmic entries to actually fill a house, so when another one comes along with good type and a promise of reinventorying the formula, it's cause for horror film fans to start salivating. Your Next doesn't even reinvent anything, but it consistently and confidently keeps the formula well oiled and provides to be one of the better films of its type. The setup is standard, a big old country house in the woods, a whole bunch of likable and dislikable people, and of course some outside assailants about to unleash hell on everyone in the house. Professionally, this is not a roll call of pretty teenagers being stalked and slashed like a normal film like this would probably be. This is a sort of bunch, young and old, all shapes and sizes, and a family bickering that proceeds to carnage is a smart move. Because once family members start getting killed, there's a genuine sense of grief and regret coursing through those yet to be sliced and diced. It is also nice to find that Wingard has great respect for his target audience because he just made a film for fans of the subgenre and inserted a darkly comic streak that pays off royally. It's often very nudge and winkery, but always in the right places. The director even proves to have a devilish eye for a murder scene, with some of the killings here high grade in blood, physicality, and originality. Elsewhere, the makers give us this great heroine, a truly resourceful gal that fights back with a ferocity that's both clever and frightening, and while the revelation of why these events are happening is hardly original, or that the backstory given for our heroine's skills is just silly, Wingard plunks it all together with such bloody verve it hardly matters. And as a serious horror film, Your Next is mediocre with gore substituting for suspense for the most part. However, as a satire of slashers and home invasion thrillers, it's pitch perfect and hits the mark more often than not. And even filled with irony and self-awareness, the movie is a perfect common companion piece for the movie that was released the previous year before this, Cabin in the Woods. Oops. The story consists of a dysfunctionally, the usual typical story though. It consists of a dysfunctional family gathering at the farmhouse for dinner, where they start arguing and are ambushed by a trio of masked maniacs that kill them one by one. But the girlfriend of one of the sons of the family turns out to be this feisty little thing, and here's kind of where the fun starts. The story has this pretty interesting variation on masked villains, terrorists with the dehumanizing quality of that trope. I also love the quality of writing and performances which the siblings' biting interaction complicates and informs how the story evolves. I even love the fresh energy poured through the terrific characters, particularly Erin. The entire film seems to hinge on her sustained force of will and helps ground the film's violence in human terms, rendering yet another layer of the evolution of horror females as victim or anti-victim. And Sharni Vincent is brilliant as a spunky and courageous female protagonist Erin. She's careful to make Erin badass but likable. Joe Swanberg is pretty hilarious as the annoying brother who still cares for his family and simply won't die. And I did love for once seeing a strong female lead to not being Mary Sue, and this movie had a perfect, excellent example of that. Sharni Vincent does a great job and should be an example to people, especially smarter and weaker people, that they don't have to be helpless victims, they will prepare themselves and learn some self-defense and survival skills. So many people walk through life with a "it won't happen to me" attitude and think somehow their cell phone and a cop that is 15 minutes away is somehow going to save them from a crazy person with a weapon. No, you need to learn how to handle yourself because the chances anyone will get to you in time are slim to none. As soon as I started this movie, though, I was intrigued and I was kind of hooked all the way through. Like, the movie starts off with a double murder, and then we start to meet the family members arriving in an isolated cabin for the parents' anniversary. Okay, surprise. Surprise, you get the typical setup, a house in the middle of nowhere, no phones, or all the typical setup we've seen many times before, but that doesn't make this movie in any way bad. In fact, I found this movie rather enjoyable, especially when the killers show up. Like, 3 of them in fact wearing animal masks, which was very clever. And it makes the whole ordeal rather frightening and unsettling. I really like that they, instead of just usual typical masks, which would be a little cliched, they're actually wearing animal masks. Now, and the animal masks look very well done, I have to say. There's not only that, there's also moments of great shock and great impact. Like when the first family member gets knocked off and the remaining members are left ducking and taking cover, and the death scenes are cool and gruesome, but the only thing that kind of lacks are the characters, as they're written rather thinly and very absent-minded. Like, I know, okay, you get that in nearly all these types of movies, but in this one, some of them can be a little bit. There are some that can still be kind of stupid and mean for a family unit. It's as if some of them didn't really care about one another, like letting your youngest daughter run outside the house and leaving a family member alone in the bedroom alone to get hacked to pieces. And the way they run off alone is rather unbelievable, even for a movie of this kind. Which brings me to this. The movie does have some bad qualities here. Like, first off, one of the jump scare noises is literally the same exact noise that's used during the wraparound in VHS 1 from the basement scene and the ending of the wraparound. No, I'm not kidding. It's the same jump scare noise like during the basement, during that first VHS movie. I'm not kidding. Like, even I had to rewind one part to see if it was the same exact noise that was lazily used for it. Wow, very original. You couldn't even make a different noise for your jump scare? Just had to copy a jump scare from another movie of yours. Very creative. The plot is also cliche in itself, because like it's a family that brings together its diverse offspring for a long way to get together, but outside influences of other ideas. And the movie is a bit of a letdown with a rather slow opening, a low budget, as a lot of it is dimly lit. Like some of the scenes really leave you questioning why they did what they did. Like, oh look, mom's just been killed in her bed in the house. Let's leave one family member up there with her on her own to sort things out. Yeah, right, that makes sense, doesn't it? When you have a bunch of killers stalking your house. Great idea. Let's separate. How's that going to turn out? In other words, the structure of the movie is the same pattern. You get to know the group of participants, then thereafter the first victims are piling up, then the guessing starts. Who will ultimately be the next victim? Was the way he or she killed inventively? And at the end, you start to wonder who's behind all this, and what are the motives of this person? The success of a slasher story depends on a few factors, like is there a threatening atmosphere all the time? In what way are the characters butchered, as it is an original method? Does it make long before you begin to suspect someone? Who could be the ultimate culprit? If you suspect someone already early in the movie, then this is an indication that it's a predictable movie. Or maybe they did it intentionally. And what surprise is used to end the movie? Oh, now that I mentioned end of the movie, my final bad quality is I did love this film, but I really hated the way they ended it. Because how this movie ends is Aaron sets this trap at the front of the door where an axe would fall and kill anyone who opened the door. Fox Max enters through a window, so Aaron lures him into the basement, where she blinds him with a camera before cracking his skull with a law, killing him, which was a good kill. Then Z and Felix attempt to kill Aaron themselves, but she kills Felix by shredding the top of his head with a blender before stabbing Z in the top of the head with a knife. Felix self-arraigns and Aaron answers without speaking, believing he's speaking to Felix, but then Crispin reveals his involvement in the scheme, and Aaron confronts him when he returns, and Crispin explains she was never meant to be targeted. And then attempts to bribe her into staying quiet. She kills him in disgust by stabbing him in the neck and eye. Then a police officer arrives, shoots Aaron the soldier, having seen her kill Crispin, and after calling for backup, he attempts to enter the house and falls victim to Aaron's front door trap, and the axe hits him in the head just as the movie cuts to a blood-splattered "You're next." Yeah, so basically, this movie's trying to tell us she will get jailed for accidentally killing the cop, and because she wasn't even targeted in the first place, plus her fingerprints are clearly on the killer's bodies, she'll probably either get life or even the chair as in death penalty, the electric chair. This does not feel like a good way to end a badass lead story. No! That's such a lazy, unfair way to end a badass character's story. Why would you end it like that? Here's how it really should have ended. When Aaron is confronting Crispin, he explains the scheme, and then, of course, Aaron pulls out her phone from her pocket, plays Crispin's confession on voice recorder, and then Crispin, horrified, realizes that Aaron was recording his confession on her phone after having gotten his answer on her phone that revealed himself. And then when he was telling her scheme, she was recording him the whole time once he got into the house. And when he does attempts to bribe her to stay quiet, knowing he'll probably be executed by the police or go to jail for life for the whole plan, Aaron then tricks Crispin into chasing with the recording. Then she activates the axe strap on him, and the blood splattered "You're next" text appears. Now that would have been a more definitive ending. That would have been way better than that cheap cop-out they chose to go with. But other than those qualities, I really enjoyed You're Next, and it's probably one of the few Adam Wingard films I'm willing to give a chance, along with Godzilla vs. Kong. So in the end, if you want to see a satire on the cliches of home invasion movies, then I would definitely recommend watching and buying this movie for your collection for sure. Anyways, that's it for my review of You're Next, and if you're wondering how I'm going to rank You're Next, here's how I'm going to rank this movie.
So overall, if you love home invasion movies but also want to see one with a smart lead and satirize cliches of them, then I would highly recommend watching and buying this movie for your collection for sure. And if you're wondering how I'm going to rank You're Next, I'm going to give You're Next an 8 out of 10.
There we go! That wraps up my review for You're Next, and yeah, so you're wondering what my next review is going to be. Well, my next review is going to be for another rewatch I did a few weeks ago, and it's going to be for a film from Robert Zemeckis, and it's one of his other collaborations with Tom Hanks. It was released in the year 2000, and it was known for also having a volleyball character named Wilson. Yeah, guys, Castaway is going to be the next review, which will premiere on Thursday morning. So stay tuned for that. And until then, guys, that'll be it for this review. Thank y'all for watching. If you like this, want to see more, don't forget to like, subscribe to Don G. Corleone.